Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you are listening to this, whether it be while you're riding your school bus back to your coronavirus-infested school, re-watching the Inkstorm 8 Top Cut, canceling your friends on Twitter, whatever it is you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Also, hello, Carrot. Yes, I assumed you'd be busy at work. I assume a lot of people are busy at work right now. The reason I'm doing this now instead of the usual 6 o'clock Eastern Time frame that I have done in the past is because my work schedule has shifted back to normal. How we've gone to phase normal since the virus has now about 4.5 million more cases than when we initially shut down. I have no idea. People above my pay grade tell me it's safe, so I guess that's cool. So I don't expect to get as many views live, which is fine. Totally fine with that. The last podcast I did has about 100 views after the stream ended, which is great. So as long as people are watching this or listening to this, whenever it is that you're doing it, I'm fine. I don't really care if it's if Avril's gonna be the only person bugging me in chat. Totally cool from that. Work from home gang. Lucky you. By the way, Avril, I am going to be talking about some of the old days today, because it does kind of tie into Inkstorm 8 and everything that kind of went on this weekend. I'm talking about like the 2018 days. Man, I feel old talking about Splatoon in 2018. Today, I'm going to briefly, and every time I say briefly, I end up rambling longer than I intend to, briefly talk about Inkstorm 8 as it pertains to the lower level community. Now, if this is your first time listening to one of my podcasts, the focus of this is to put a spotlight on teams that are in Div 8 through 5, or teams that are in that skill range. But, even in an open invite tournament like Inkstorm, there's still a lot to discuss. Afterwards, at about 2 p.m. Eastern Time, I will be chatting with the captain of Bread Gang, Carbonine98K. And the first question I'm going to ask, and don't reveal, I know you're in chat, don't reveal it now, what your actual IGN is that we should pronounce and how you came up with that name. Bread Gang is a Div 6 team that has been in existence for at least since 2019, which in this community is a long time. So I'm going to chat with them and get their perspective on the competitive community at around this level. Hello, Addison. I see you peeking out there. All right. We'll get to that, Avril. We'll get to that. For now, we are going to focus on Inkstorm and the good that came out of Inkstorm. The Pop Gun official win of the week. And quite possibly, on paper, the biggest upset of the entire tournament. Now, I haven't looked at all 108-ish teams in every single game that they played, but I'd be willing to assume, just from the small portion of the tournament that I looked at, the number one upset of the entire tournament is Div 6 Krill Streak. Little Krill Streak, who went 1-4 in Div 6 and Ludi, who has claimed to fame is winning the Gamma bracket in the June Low Ink tournament, beating the Div 3 team InkSync 2-1 in group stage. I need to give a clap. I need to make like a clapping noise or something. I need to do like more cheesy radio noise. I also need to switch to live. We are live now. We're not starting up. Krill Streak beating InkSync is a major upset. This is, I tried to find some more information about this game specifically. I don't think InkSync was able. I don't think InkSync streamed it. I did reach out to Krill Streak for a comment, and basically what they said was they did not stream it. Milk has a capture card that got chipped in, but it didn't work for the tournament for whatever reason, so there's no VOD of this one out there. Krill Streak did say, from Camo, some good rounds though. They KO'd us in game 1, then we KO'd them in game 2, went into a pretty close TC match at the end. We were hyped to do well against a higher div team. Wish we could have shared it. Yes, you should be hyped to beat. InkSync is a team that has been around for a long time. I don't know what they've been doing recently, but they are an SAC graduate. They did compete in Genesis 8, and I've hung out with a lot of InkSync members IRL. They're all really cool and chill people, and had some really good conversations with them as well at Genesis. I guess that was Genesis 7. I already got Genesis 8 on the brain. So I don't know what happened in this game specifically. First, when I looked and saw InkSync KO'd, then Krill Streak KO'd, and then it was a close. My first thought was, okay, well, Krill Streak must have found a way to win like a Rainmaker game or something like that. But no, this was in round 5. And if I can pull up the maps for round 5 real quick, game 1 would have been Clamblitz at Snapper Canal. So InkSync KO'd at Clamblitz Snapper Canal. Game 2 was Splat Zones at Anchovy. So Krill Streak being able to win that one is, in KO fashion, is interesting. Again, there's no VOD. We don't know what happened. InkSync could have been squid partying the entire time for all we know. But usually when there's an upset like this, what happens is a team loses a Rainmaker match. Because in my opinion, if you're going to upset a team that is better than you do it in Rainmaker, because it's a lot easier to kind of trip up and lose a game like that. Because if you just get wiped once, it's over. But no, that didn't happen here. They beat them at Splat Zones and then went to Tower Control and Main Stage. And again, I don't really know what happened here, but it seems like it was a close match. Maybe it went down to overtime. I don't know. But that is a monster win for Krill Streak, at least on paper. And again, I would argue beating a team 3 divs above you in a tournament like Inkstorm, probably not unorthodox, probably not unheard of before. But at least as far as I'm concerned, I am considering that the biggest upset of the entire tournament. InkSync did go on to make beta bracket. Krill Streak stayed in the gamma bracket, and I'll talk about the poop show that was in a few seconds. But credit where credit is due. Congratulations to Krill Streak on that monster win. Some other interesting things to note from the group stage that I initially thought were really awesome and cool to point out until I looked deeper into it. Inkling Technology at Purdue, ITAP. These guys won 2 wins. They went to beta bracket. Inkling Technology at Purdue went to beta bracket. What a great showing for them. Looked at the games, and the 2 games they won were because their opponents dropped. Oh. Unfortunate. And in all honesty, Purdue didn't even win a single game. They played so many tough teams in that bracket. But when I looked at it initially, I was like, dang, how did these guys make beta bracket? This is amazing. And then you look at it and you see why. Pure Divinity went 3-3. Now, Pure Divinity is a really good team. I need to personally scrim these guys with my team because I want to see for myself how good they really are. I think they might be, just based off of their tournament results, they did really good in Midway. I think they might be a sneaky good team that might be better than Pure Divinity's easily Div 2. See, now you got me really interested. I'm going to have to look into them for that. But they went 3-3 in this tournament. This is a low ink team. They usually get the number 1 seed in little squid leagues. So they went 3-3. This is awesome. They made beta bracket. Looked at the teams they beat. They beat a pickup team called Watermelon 2-1, and then their other 2 wins are because their opponent disqualified due to dropping. They made beta bracket, but they didn't play in beta bracket. They dropped before Sunday started. So there you go. That's your wrap up for the lower level teams that competed in in Ink Storm 8. The teams that did good did so because the other teams gave them free wins for dropping. It is what it is. Whatever. Now, the real story for this tournament. Yes, I know Splatforce participated, Avril, and you guys did beat Krillstreak, who did beat InkSync, as I stated. But in my opinion, you guys are still too good to be talked about in a cast like that I'm trying to do right here. And you guys are much more well-known than a lot of these other teams I'm talking about. But day 2 is where things kind of fell apart. And thank you for the subscription, Baki. I forgot it was a new month. Day 2 is where things fell apart, especially for the lower level community, taking a big hit. And the reason for that is because teams did not show up for the Sunday brackets at all. The Gamma bracket had 39 teams in it initially. Of those 39 teams, 25 dropped. Only 14 teams of the 39 actually played on Sunday. So that is 64% of the entire bracket didn't even bother to show up on Sunday. No game in the Gamma bracket was actually played until round 3. Persistence didn't even play a game until quarterfinals in round 4. What's going on there? It's not just the lower level. This happened in the beta bracket too. 6 teams dropped. 6 teams dropped in the beta bracket before it even started. Micklin Heroes, Pure Divinity, Lime Soda, Morakuma. That is a newer-ish team made by Rocket and some other free agents that were formed. They're a pretty good Div 2-ish team, or at least made up of players that have Div 2 experience. I'm not going to try to give them a Ludi seeding. That's above my pay grade. Maelstrom and Carnage Gaming. So it's not just the lower level teams that dropped. Higher level teams said nah to Sunday as well that didn't make top cut. They were kind of hoping to make top cut. But yes, Gamma bracket, 64% of the teams dropping. Now, I am going to explain why those teams dropped and why everyone needs to get off their butts for it. Number 1, signups did allow for you to not participate in Sunday. If you registered for the tournament, there was a little box you could have clicked that said that we're not going to be playing on day 2. I don't know how that affected the actual seeding of the brackets. I don't know if there was a bunch of teams that said they weren't going to play, but the TOs put them in the bracket anyway, just based off of their seeding. And then when Sunday came around, went back and said, okay, this team told us from the jump they weren't going to play, so let's just cross them out, but leave them still in the bracket so the seeding works out. I don't know if that was the case, or if they already eliminated those guys before they put them in the bracket. That would be a question for a TO, but that is something I do want to point out. There was stated from the jump that you could opt out of day 2 before the tournament even started. Issue number 2. This tournament on day 2 was so early. So early on a Sunday. It started at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you got anybody on your team that is in California, their butts are getting out of bed at 7 a.m. They need to get their coffee. They need to go through their warm-up routine, and they're going to be ready by 8 a.m. to play in this tournament. Now, issue number 3, and I would argue this is the biggest issue of the entire thing, and why I think that beta and gamma bracket were more of a second thought. As in all fairness, they should be a second thought, because this low level tournament is not meant for, or this Inkstorm tournament is not meant for the lower level. It's meant for the higher level teams, trying to draw in the biggest teams across the entire world. I get that. But the number one issue with beta and gamma is it was single elimination. Nobody, I don't care who you are, how good you are, nobody wants to get up at 11 a.m. Eastern time on a Sunday to play in a single elimination tournament. There were so many teams in this gamma bracket that probably thought, I have to get my West Coast guy up at 7 a.m. when at 8:20 his time, we could be completely eliminated from the tournament. Why would we do that? Now, when I initially signed up, my team for this tournament, my assumption was, and this is on me for not fully looking into it, but my assumption is that it would be a double elimination bracket. Going back and looking at it now, seeing that there was at least 32 teams in the beta and 39 in gamma, a double elimination bracket with that many teams would have dragged on a long time. It would have been nice to have like a consolation bracket. So, like, if you do lose, there is a loser's bracket, but there's no, like, grand finals after that. Like, you would just be eliminated from losers. Like, if you just won loser's bracket, that's it. You just won loser's bracket. But that way, you would at least have 2 games guaranteed to play, instead of just looking at the bracket and saying, oh, well, I played Maelstrom at the very beginning. I have no shot at beating those guys. Why? It's easier for me to just tell people to sleep in and not check in than it is to actually get everybody up and do league or scrim or whatever to get ready for your butt whooping. So that I completely understand. Now, if I could speak directly to a few groups here. Number 1, lower level community. If you're listening to this, yes, there is value in playing in these types of tournaments, these open invite tournaments. And yes, I encourage you to do so. But if you don't sign up for them, I completely understand 100%. When my team was coming up in late 2018, Destiny Troops, we had this thing called BNS. It was 6 rounds of Swiss. And if you won 3 games in BNS, you were somebody. Like, you were a pretty good team if you could manage to win just 3 games in BNS. If you were, like, in top cut at BNS, you were among some of the best teams in all of the West. But for teams that were around my skill level, our goal was just to win a game. You would go through 5 rounds of getting your butt beaten backwards to get to that round 6 against another team that was 0-5. And this was your first team where the games were close. I'll remember our very first set in BNS where we didn't lose was back on November, I want to say 22nd, against the Crustacean Crusaders. We went 2-2 against those guys in our first ever meeting with them. After that, I don't know if it was Allie who reached out to me or if it was me that reached out to them, but we connected and we're like, hey, we should scrim each other. We haven't found another team that's close to our level like you guys are yet. And we were cool. It was like, okay, cool. So that was the beginning of us kind of forming a scrim group. Later on, a few months later, we came across Splat Force in the SAC tournament. We're like, hey, we should be scrimming you guys. Cool. After that, in BNS, we came across the West Broadway Grillers, I believe in March of 2019. Added them into our scrim group. So doing these tournaments where you were getting your butt beaten backwards was still helpful for the lower level community because you were finding that 1 or 2 team that was close to you that you could grind with and kind of grow with. In that old scrim group we used to have, and we still scrim each other often. Like those teams are now Crusaders were Div 7 at the time. They're now Div 3. the Grillers and us, we are Div 4, but both of us made the playoffs. Splatforce, Div 5, but they have been in Div 4 before. They are an experienced team, much better than what they were back in 2019 when we were all just babies then. But for teams today, they have so many more opportunities. Back, I'm going to sound old, but back in my day, we didn't have a low ink. Or we did have a low ink, but it wasn't established enough. The mindset was Div 8 through 5 teams are going to play in this only. And it's like, well, how do you make sure nobody sneaks in? That seems like a really easy thing to do. So low ink was just kind of skeptical at that point. But now low ink has grown to the point to where they have a great system in place to where they can catch anybody who tries to sneak in. But there's so many other tournaments that are like that as well. Ash Cup does a really good job of checking over the players that sign up for their tournament. Little Squid Leagues, Parias is a part of. I don't know if Parias is the head TO for that or not, but if you ever listen to one of Parias's podcasts, and I'm not just saying this because I saw you, I was originally going to say this, I'm not saying it because you're just now in chat, but I honestly don't think there's anybody in this community that knows as much about the Div X Plus teams as he does about the Div 8 teams. Like top to bottom, the knowledge Parias has of this tournament or of this community is absolutely insane. So the fact that that guy is helping run the Little Squid Leagues kind of tells me, okay, that tournament does a good job of checking the players that sign up for that. The Xanadu Tournament Series, that's a newer-ish tournament. I believe will be going on in a couple of weeks, a couple of weekends, I should say. They got some low ink staff that are a part of that, so they're kind of learning from low ink, so they're kind of figuring out ways to keep their tournament safe as well. So there's all these tournaments now that pertain to teams in Div 8 through 5 where they can find other teams around their skill level, they can find new scrim opponents, and they can just stick to that. Where back in my day, all you had to do was play BNS, get your butt beaten for like 3 hours, and then you find that one team that you can kind of grow with. Now, we should not hold it against the lower level community for sticking solely to these tournaments. If I could talk to everybody else right now, leave the lower level community alone. Yes, teams get to come up in a safer, more controlled environment than what Destiny Troops, West Broadway Grillers, Crustacean Crusaders, and Splatforce did back when we were coming up. That's a great thing, because how we came up sucked. It sucked playing in BNS and getting your butt beaten backwards so many times. Now, there's still teams that do sign up for these tournaments that they know they're going to get their butts beat, but they still sign up for them because they see the value in it. And there is still value in it. Shoutouts to Krill Streak, Pure Divinity, Inkling Technology at Purdue. They sign up for everything. There's no tournament I look at that doesn't have the Purdue team in it. Geek Squid signed up for a lot of these stuff. So there are still teams that are kind of grinding out that old-fashioned way, and shout-outs to them for doing so. But these teams that just want to stay in their safe, controlled environment, let them do that. It's totally fine. We shouldn't be upset at them for doing that. It's like you run a CD store, right? And you're selling CDs. And you're like, this is awesome. And you got your customer base that comes in and buys CDs because they love it. But that CD store manager cannot be like, how come all these younger kids are not coming in and buying these CDs? Well, that's because the issue is not the consumer. The issue is the product. You got to kind of change what you're doing to appeal to these teams that are not signing up for your tournament. It's like the Principal Skinner meme, where he's like, am I the one who's uncool? Am I the one who's not adapting to things? And it's like, no, it's the children that are wrong. It's not the tournament's fault that these lower level teams are not signing up. It's because the teams are too scared to play in it. No, we need to find better ways to bring in these teams. Low ink. Low Ink gets 100 teams now, every single tournament. And people are saying, how come these teams are signing up for Low Ink, but they're not signing up for other tournaments? I will always remember this tweet, because it made me pull out what little hair I still have left. I'm not going to say who did it, but there was a tweet. It was back during SAC season. It was the tweet read roughly, how come Low Ink is getting so many teams signed up for it and SAC is not? And it's like, that's your job to figure that out. It's not that people don't know that the SAC tournament doesn't exist. There is a reason why, and it's on you to kind of figure that out. There are some teams or some tournaments that did a really good job kind of adapting what they do to draw in some of these lower level teams. Good Guys Win, God rest their soul, did a fantastic job of this, and was one of the first tournaments I've seen. I don't know if they were the first, but at least one of the first I see that did this. They had a double elimination bracket, but if you were swept 0-2 in those bracket, then you were put into like a little consolation bracket. I think they called it like the Little Judd bracket, bronze medal bracket, Weenie Hut Junior bracket, whatever you want to call it. Those things are great because teams can sign up for those tournaments and they can say, okay, cool, I know I'm going to get my butt beat twice, but that's good. I'm going to get film of us playing a top level team, because it's one thing to watch a VOD of a top level team play, and it's a completely different thing to see it happening to you live. And if you can get a VOD of that and you can kind of gameplay, and you can kind of like study it and be like, okay, here's what they do and here's how it works really well against what we try to do, that can be helpful. So you go through 2 games like that, and then you play in a consolation bracket against teams that are actually at your skill level. Even if that consolation bracket is single elim, that's still guaranteeing at least 3 games for every team that signs up in your tournament. Or I should say at least 3 opportunities to win a game for every team that signs up for your tournament. That kind of stuff is amazing. And we need to see more of that kind of things happen. You can't have a double elim tournament that brings in top level teams and then say, well, why aren't the lower level teams coming out for this? My question is, why should they? They have so many other things they can do in the lower level scene. 3 weekends ago, Little Squid League. 2 weekends ago, Ash Cup. 1 weekend ago, Low Ink. This past weekend, Inkstorm. Next weekend, Little Squid League. The weekend after that, I don't know. I haven't looked down for that around the row. But that's 5 weeks in a row, if you want to include Inkstorm, because it did bring in a lot of lower level teams. So that's 5 weeks in a row where we've had tournaments that can bring in these kinds of teams and they can stay in a safe environment. Why should they play in these outside tournaments? My point being, Inkstorm 8 was not made for lower level teams, and that's fine. That's totally fine. I get that. My team played in it and we had a great time. We'll do it again. I hope everybody that did play in it had a great time as well. But just leave the lower level teams alone. It's totally fine that they didn't come out on Sunday. If you're a TO, it's probably really frustrating, and I understand that if they didn't come out. But it's totally fine. And that's the end of my rant. And I got it done in under 30 minutes. I'm actually kind of proud of myself. So I'm going to take a quick water break here. Price offered this as an idea for Saturday Night Splashdown once, but people made a stink about it. Who made a stink about it? What stink is there to be made about it? What is the concern there with doing something that appeals to more teams? I'll never understand. Stink about. Okay, fine. If people want to make a stink about it, fine. But those people are not allowed to go on Twitter and attack the lower level community for not showing up for these same kind of tournaments, because it goes both ways. Now, I'm not attacking anybody in particular. I know there's been some podcasts that come out that have kind of talked about this topic. I haven't listened to them. I'm not like calling out anybody specific tweets or anything like that, but there has been some noise, and it annoyed me because they're being a lower level team now. This is the golden age of being a lower level team. Just let them enjoy it. What's wrong with people enjoying the game? Have some fun, for Christ's sake. Also have some water. So I'm going to drink some water real quick, and then we're going to bring in Bread Gang and have a little chat with them. Give me like 2-ish minutes.
Okay, poggers.
And joining me now on the Popcast is the captain of Bread Gang, a Div 6 team. If I'm just going to read your name based off of how it is on Discord, I believe it is Sigma Car9 Carbonine 98K. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Uh, yes, but the Sigma and the 98K is just their show. I usually just go by Carbine.
Okay, that was my question. So like if I'm in VC with you, I would just call you Carbonine.
Carbine.
Carbine.
Yeah.
Carbine. I can read. Carbine. Okay, so where did the name Carbine come from?
Okay. Before I started playing Splatoon, when I got the game in October 2018, I actually played a ton of PUBG. I didn't get competitive with it, but I was good enough to make the game enjoyable. And, and my favorite gun in that game was the Car 98K.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Originally, my name used to be K98K, but that that's a mouthful. No one wants to pronounce that. Um, and so I just stick to Carbine. So
So what you're saying is both of our IGNs are based off of guns, except
yeah,
mine is a toy and yours is an actual one. Okay,
yeah.
makes sense. Give us a the history of Bread Gang, starting with when did you guys like? What is the first official form date of Bread
Okay.
Gang?
Um, our we actually started as like a little clan, um, consisting of three people: me, Star, and MRC. Um, and we formed through this one server that hosted that went with the Splatfests. I think we met on the Trick or Treat Splatfest of October 2018. And so we kept playing. We wanted to hang out more and more, and in December of 2018, through Inkopedia, the glossary, I found out competitive Splatoon existed. Um, and so I was asked the other two if they wanted to do that. Star wanted to. MRC couldn't because she has a really busy schedule with college and work and all that. Um, and so like a big debate is trying to get a fourth for a team, and that lasted until January 2019, which I would call the official form, where our first official uh, us being active is like the SAC Season 0 opener, which had a me, Star, a bit girl named we had a named Bippy that played Splatlings at the time, or I don't know if she still does Splatoon or not, but and then a guy named Hack who played Brushes. And funnily enough, our first match was against Cephalogods, who now two of them are on our team right now, Zen and Fire. But they don't join until like much later, and so we just I wouldn't call ourselves fully comp until like November of 2019 November when Fire and Blue joined, and I think that's how I met you.
Yes.
Through Blue. Yeah, we had a nice period with Blue and everybody. And then like December 2019, it just every like half the team left, where it was me, Star, and Fire left, and so we were desperately trying to find a backliner, and then we met Tyrant. He got on the team, and then like maybe a month later, we picked up Ben. Can I plug his Twitch real quick?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, he streams for us. His Twitch is zenplays_04. Sure, check him out. But anyways, yeah. Ever since then, our roster has been more stable than it has been. Even though the other day, Star and over the last couple weeks, Star and Tyrant have left, but so it's now just me, Fire, Zen, and Dino left, where we're trying to find a Brawl player. I don't know if he's in chat, but he might plug our FA post or recruitment post. So, yeah.
Well, good luck finding a competent Barella player, and if you find one, let me know. I think all of us are kind of looking for a solid Barella player, especially in this meta. But you mentioned, what'd you say, cephalopods? That name, the cephalopods or something. That name sounds
Cephalogods.
Cephalogods. That name sounds so familiar.
Yeah.
It's weird to think back to all these older teams. or you hear like a name that you haven't heard, like a team name you haven't heard in like a year or so, and you're like, wow, I forgot those guys existed.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I came to kind of find you guys because I randomly found By the Way Blue that one time.
Hmm.
And I watched some of her streams of you guys, and you guys beat West Broadway Grillers, I think, in December. And then I saw you guys beat Splat Force in the SAC opener of this season, and that one was when I was like, "Oh snap! I don't want to play these guys. I don't want to be the next one to accidentally get upset by you guys." So what is like the highest moment in the Bread Gang career?
Um, uh, I want to say the night the night we beat Splat Force. So far, I'm sure upsets are coming. Um, uh, but we went on uh to lose the next round of the opener, which did put us on the SAC graphic.
Oh, you guys were ranked for a little bit, weren't you? At
Yeah,
one
we
point.
got ranked 30, but then like the week after, like none of us were available. Plus, at the time, Zang got his Switch taken away. Um, um, he got back like when the COVID stuff started,
Hmm.
but um, yeah. So far, that's our highest moment, and again, I'm sure there's more to come. So
Well, hopefully there is. So let's see. You guys did Ludi. This was your first Ludi season. This past one.
this is our third Ludi season.
This next one will be your third one.
This next one will be our fourth.
Will be your fourth one. Okay, so you've done three
Yeah.
Ludi seasons so far.
Yeah.
So you guys went. I think I saw you guys went 2-3 in the last Ludi season.
Mhm.
What do you guys? Most teams that do Ludi that don't make the playoffs have to disband. That's like the rule, right? You're supposed to disband when you don't make the
Yeah.
playoffs. So what kind of let you guys? What did you guys kind of take away from the Ludi season, and what kind of helped you guys kind of stick together and keep growing after that?
Um, I with sticking together is just the close bond we have. Like, what I don't know how much is shown during Zen stream, but we goof around a lot. Even during practices and scrims. Um, and like we'll just have uh this one joke we'll stick to for a certain period of time, and it just gets milked, and it's hilarious. So, um, after this last Ludi season, we actually uh didn't do in our minds quite bad. We lost to Blitzing Vipers, who became Radiants, and then they disbanded like a couple of days ago, actually.
Oh, they won Div 6, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Um, and then we beat up the Krusty Crew, uh, in week 2, 5-3. Um, we had a really scuffed set where we had to bring Frosh of Xanadu in just because he's our sub for the match, and I think they snuck in a person from Bad, which I think is Div 2. Game Over did, and we ended up losing to them 0-5. Um, then we had a really, really close set against Typhoon where we lost 4-5 and nearly missed winning the last game. Then we went on week 5, beat Essen Surf and Turf 5-0. So, and then after that, it's just like rebuilding, sort of, just improving on certain little parts, and preparing for these next these summer tournaments and all that. So
What kind of tournaments are you guys looking to compete in the future? I was kind of talking about before you came on. I kind of went on a little rant there. I was talking
mhm.
about how some teams kind of just stick to the lower level tournaments, which is just fine that they do that, in my opinion. But there's other teams that kind of go out and play in these tournaments that they know they have no shot in winning, but they still see value in that. You guys are one of those teams. I've seen you play in the Purdue tournament, and I know you've played in some other tournaments as well. What do you kind of when you sign up for like an open invite tournament? What is kind of your expectations there? Like, what are you trying to get out of those type of tournaments that you know you have no shot at winning?
It depends. Like for low ink, we made Gamma Bracket and we actually did pretty well. Um, but this next time around, we seek to make Beta Bracket. Going 4-2 in Swiss has been the goal. We missed that last time around. Um, we for these other low level tournaments, we'll compete in them. Hopefully do well. Like we're not searching for anything unless it's like LSL. We're trying to make it far, but like this upcoming season of SAC, we expect to do. We hope to make noise in. Actually place on that top 32 leaderboard this time around, since there's a ton of teams, like 8 teams gone now, and based on uh, other teams that played in low ink that we beat have made it there. Like what UA, we've scrimmed them when they were still around. We scrimmed them multiple times. They hit like 28 and 30. So just getting up on that leaderboard for SAC. We plan to still continue doing Boilermaker, which I think this is this Thursday.
Yes, it is.
So, other than that, unless something pops up, we uh we may not do it just because either doesn't look too good for us. Like the weeklies, we tried it out a couple times. It didn't go well. So yeah,
What's your favorite type of bread?
sourdough.
Why bread gang? Why that name?
Um, this is a story back from like our when we were first founding. Um, the phrase "let's get this bread" was really popular then. I don't know how it was popular is now, because I don't hear it often unless we're saying it before a match.
It was overused, yes.
Yeah. And so it just stuck, and we decided to turn it into Bread Gang, and it was, yeah. And our group chat, that our old group chat that us three had, still has the bread thing. So it kind of started there, and we just built on from it.
Does bread gang have any friendly rivals? Or any teams that you play and you're like, oh, well, we're excited to play these guys because we know it could go either way?
Um, Recently, Tropics has been one of those teams. Eurobeats has been especially one of those teams, because we may or may not have had a humiliating loss, but Xanadu, I want to call rivals, but just because we scrimmed them so many times, yet they've outclassed us every time we faced them. Especially like A with those dualies. Holy crap. But it used to be What You Egg used to be a hot one, and Kagala Fire Arrows, now Haruochos. They're Div 7. Um, when those teams were still kind of active, they used to be big opponents. So
Yeah, there's the teams you mentioned there are all well, except for What You Egg since they disbanded, but all these
yeah,
other teams like Tropics, Eurobeat, Xanadu, like these are all teams that are established and have been around for a long time. And that's kind of the value of a team like you that's been around since 2019. The longer you're like in a set established team, the more of these other teams that you kind of find that you grow with and you build like a history with, like with my team specifically, I could tell you like the tournament series wins that we have against the Crusaders, the Grillers, and Splat Force, like all of the, because we've played them like a million times throughout the tournament.
yeah.
And you guys in the past link, you guys beat Eurobeats, and then you guys lost to Tropics. Um, but those were all close games. Do you kind of remember anything from those two games particularly?
Um, yes, the first. This is probably our biggest, our most memorable, uh, recent memorable win because in the Swiss we took the first game, and then the second game we didn't pull out a Rainmaker comp, but we did. The style never changed. It's only Zen on the remix,
Mm-hmm.
but we were able to get a really good push off of them going 2 down to pop. We pushed it to 1, and then middle of the match fire DCs, and so for whatever reason we decided to keep playing on. So it's a 3v4 during the whole match, and for 2 minutes, we were just getting pushed and pushed and pushed, and every time we always came back with someone ended up getting a quad or like a clutch pick. I had 2 clutch doubles at the end where I saved the game, and that just stuck. Um, we ended up losing the third game, Clan Blitz, but and then we had another close one in the Gamma bracket. The second game, I forgot what it was, but it was like really, really close. And then third game just happened to be bleh. So
You mentioned one of the players on your team. I think you said Zen is streams for you guys.
yes.
So you do have? Do you guys like sit down and do like VOD reviews, especially of those matches against your rivals, where you want to try to find ways to beat them again in future tournaments?
Occasionally, but when we do them, we just we pick out the main problems and try to fix upon that. Um, though we if like there's something notable like Eurobeats Blast or that we have a special problem with, we find ways to deal with them. So
So I know you got to go do some important work at your house soon. But I'll leave you with this: a few more questions about some of your potential TO experience. You've been kind of involved in the Xanadu tournament series, which is a newerish tournament series that will continue again in August, and after that, not really sure. But what kind of how did you get involved with that? And well, let's just start there. How did you get involved in that tournament?
um, just Matt or Frosh. I'm so used to calling him Matt.
It's-
Uh, but Frosh got me announced that to us first, because sub relations, all that.
Right.
He announced to us that XTS was holding their thing, and he needs staff. He he didn't want me, or he didn't really necessarily want me and Zen uh on it at first, just because Zen's commentating and I'm staffing for we're both on Bread Gang, and he wants us to play, but yeah, so I started getting involved with that. I will be staffing, be part of staffing for this what private scrim server called Launchpoint, which is aimed at divs 5 through 7. So now we kind of have like a ladder in the community where it goes like +1, +2, +0, midpoint, and launch point. And we're through people on Fluorescent who also staff midpoint. We have connections through them and launch points, so we're gonna be kind of partnered. So
Okay, I didn't know launch point was a thing. So that's basically midpoint except a little bit lower. Like a
yeah,
pickup server you got to get voted into, basically.
how we're deciding who gets in and whatnot is we're trying to take a vote, because one person who is in midpoint brought up a really good point at one certain time where can't remember what it was, but it kind of changed how we think upon this. Because originally we had a draft cup date and all these graphics and like everything set out. We just need to just wait for the tournament day to start. And then Calisade brought up this really good point, and just kind of change how we do things. And so, still trying to figure out what we want to do, but hopefully, by the end of August, we'll have everything up and running. So,
Well, there you go. Do you have anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to say? I do have some questions from chat that are kind of dumb, but since Baki's on my team, I might ask them anyways. But go ahead. One more, at least one more time. Plug that you are recruiting and what people, if anyone's interested in joining Bread Gang, what should they do?
yeah, we're looking for a Brella player, like like the very least V Brella and a Sorella Brella player who has Div 5 experience, has reached all X, 2200 preferred, not necessarily needed. They live in, hopefully, we're searching for someone that lives in NA, or EST, CST time zone, preferably. Look at everything that's on it. Able to talk in VC and make basic callouts. Someone who's available for 6 days a week. And most of our practices do happen like around 6 p.m. Central Time. So we would like someone who can play around that time of day.
If you guys win a tournament, will you change your name from Bread Gang to Toast Gang?
No.
Is there a team called Toast Gang? Baki? Why did Baki ask that? I don't get that.
I don't know. I remember there being a team, an SIC 0 called Moist Bread, and
I think I remember that.
yeah. We never actually talked to them, but we had like a within the people of the members of Bread Gang, we had like this joke rivalry with Moist Bread, and that was a thing.
That
So
that makes sense. Hey, at least you're not Splatforce, and there's another team trying to use your same name. And
seriously,
I there was this. I think there was like a second Splatforce team that signed up for like the NA Open or something like that. They were
oh
just like a casual team, and they probably
oh,
didn't
funny you
know.
mentioned that though. There was another Bread Gang competing in the NA Open that we saw. So
There you go. You got to get that name trademarked, man. Get that done.
uh,
Hey, thanks for coming on and offering to be a part of this. I'm gonna let you go so you can do your thing. But Bread Gang is a team I'll definitely be keeping an eye on. I love the fact that we have teams that have been around for a while that are like a developed rivalry with other teams at the skill level. So keep doing what you're doing, Carbine, and
mhm,
I'll probably be talking to you again at some point down the road.
okay.
Thank you. And that was Carbine, like the gun, captain of Red Gang. One thing you kind of mentioned there that I think is kind of worth noting is you said the team kind of formed because of a Splatfest, or like the clan kind of formed because of Splatfest. And I bet there's a lot of groups that kind of came around because of things like Splatfest. My first introduction to the Discord community of Splatoon was because of Splatfest. And that was back when you needed 4 people to play. Like now you can just play with anybody and then the game will just randomly give you a pickup. But back in the early days, man, I'm talking a lot about old Splatoon today. But back in the early days, you had to get 4 full people to do Splatfest. So like I went to Reddit and I saw people were asking. So that's when I found people through Reddit, and through that I found people through Discord, and through that I found the Sploot Troop clan, and through that we were able to make a team, yada yada yada. Um, so a lot of these teams probably found out that that there was such a thing as the Splatoon community through Splatfest. As much as we as a competitive community hate Splatfest, especially Baki, who just hates Turd 4 in general. I I would be curious to see if there's other teams like Bread Gang that originated originally from something like Splatfest, an in-game casual event that just kind of brings people together. With that, we're going to wrap up this episode of the Popcast. Next week, I'm going to recap the Little Squid League tourney that is going to be this upcoming weekend. I said that last weekend, but I was a dummy and didn't realize that Little Squid League was going to push back what they were doing because of Inkstorm 8. So I'll be recapping that. I probably will be on around the same time. Just kind of depends. I think Mondays are kind of good to do something like this, so I can spend Sunday kind of coming over my notes, Monday actually doing it, and then spend the rest of the week not really caring. If you would like to be a part of this in any way, if you are a team captain on a well-established team and you want to come on and talk about your team, or if you have a hot take about the lower level community that you want to discuss, or whatever reason, DM me. Feel free to DM me on Discord, popgun hashtag 5882. On Twitter at Mr_Popgun. No, not Miss Popgun. That is my wife. That is not a spoof account. I do. Have had more people kind of reach after me after the last podcast that I did. I'll try to find a way to get them on in a way that makes sense. And yeah, and more, if there's more weekends like this where there's not a lot of action going on in the lower level community, I might just do a whole stream of just interviews. Who knows? We'll never know. But for now, I need to start getting ready going to work. I need to find somebody to raid. And nobody that I follow is online right now, so we're gonna raid. We're gonna name Snowpoke. I have no idea about anything about this person's stream other than they do. No, Baki, you're not streaming right now. Shut up. Raid this person. Let's meet some new people. Let's do that. Thank you again for watching. We will be back next week. If you're going to wear a mask, and I highly encourage you to do so, please put it over your nose, you mouth breathers.